Hello and welcome to this Skill Up for the Future event and to this Business of Possibility podcast with Ulster University Business School. In this series, we've been taking a long, hard look at business here in Northern Ireland and in the global context. And I have to say that in every single episode of this podcast that we have done, the issue of skills has come up. Hasn't actually mattered what else we've been talking about. Skills has been there in every single episode. So, handily enough, that's what we're talking about today. And we'll hear about Ulster University's applications for its latest round of free postgraduate courses in the Skill Up programme, courses focusing on in-demand skills and knowledge. So all of that to come, and the details of how you can access all of the information about that once you've listened to this podcast. So we have a terrific panel with us today, and I'd like you to give a big welcome to them, please. First of all, Graeme Wilkinson, Director of Skills at the Department for the Economy. We also have Emer Maguire, award-winning musical comedian, and Emer has a postgraduate certificate in professional development, enabling business recovery. Emer, come and join us. Sean O'Fahilly is a design engineer at Sensata Technologies. He has a postgraduate certificate in artificial intelligence. Good to have you here, Sean. And last but absolutely not least, Joanne Ferguson, who's Director of CME Group here in Belfast. So it's great to have such a good panel. So let's get started. We're going to look at how Skill Up is helping thousands of people across Northern Ireland take their career and, from your point of view, perhaps their business to the next level. And Graeme, for those who aren't aware, you got a very good introduction there from Gillian as the architect of all of this. So tell us a little about the Skill Up programme and the sort of courses that are on offer and why you thought it was a good idea.
Thanks, Wendy. Yeah, I suppose this went back to whenever we were in the midst of a pandemic. And certainly from a departmental point of view, we wanted to identify a way to actually provide opportunity for individuals to retrain, upskill, maybe look at different employment opportunities. So as you can imagine, it was a pretty tricky time. We were all working remotely from home. So designing a program in that context was very challenging, but we achieved it. The things that we wanted to ensure was the course had to be online, because at that time, if you remember, nobody was allowed to go anywhere. We were all in our houses, so course had to be online. We wanted to ensure there was no cost attached to it, because for individuals that was really challenging. And making sure it was in those areas that were economically relevant in terms of the growth areas in our economy. So looking at things like digital skills, the area of advanced manufacturing, health and life sciences, leadership and management. So those are the areas that we wanted to design courses. We also wanted to make sure that everybody could participate. So the courses that we put online, they're right from entry level right through to postgraduate. So there's something there for everybody, no matter what your current level of education is. So a very broad mix of courses that are available. And we currently have around 300 courses within that provision. And that's delivered by our universities as well as our further education colleges. So I honestly believe there's something there for everybody. And that's something we wanted to be sure that we achieve. That inclusion piece is really essential in terms of participation. To date, we've helped around 11,000 individuals through the Skill Up programme, and that's something that we're very proud of. And we hope to achieve 20,000 over the course of the next year. So good participation, and a lot of people, you'll hear a little bit from the folks this morning, how it has actually transformed individuals' lives and how it has actually nudged them into further education as well. So absolutely fantastic, and I want to pay testimony to our universities and colleges and the great work that they've done over the last number of years. It would be remiss of me not to also thank the Northern Ireland office, who have put £23 million into this programme, so it's not cheap. So just to thank the Northern Ireland office for their contribution in making this all happen.
Graeme, thanks very much indeed. I'll come back to you, of course. I'm keen to hear how this has all worked and the experience that it's been for some of the people who've been involved. Emer, tell us about your experience. Professional development was your certificate. And I mean, what drew you to that opportunity to begin with?
COVID, basically. So I'm a comedian, and I don't know if you remember during COVID, all gigs were cancelled. So I was just before COVID, I had been deciding to leave my career as a speech and language therapist to become a full-time comedian. And then I did that, and then the pandemic hit and everything was cancelled for a year. So I was like, oh no, my parents were like, I told you so. So I was like, I need to do something that's kind of, and I saw the advertisement for the course, and I was reading through it and I was thinking, oh God, yeah, I'd be really interested in that. I've always been a little bit interested in business and things like this, but my background was science. I was a speech therapist, then I went to Queen's, the medical school, and did anatomy and research and things like that. So I kind of always felt like maybe I wasn't confident enough to try business or try something different. But the more I read about it, I was like, it's online, which suited me down to the ground. I was delighted we didn't have to leave the house during COVID, because apart from the gigs, I'm weirdly enough quite shy for a comedian. So I thought, it's online, that's great, that's one big thing. And then I kept reading and it said it was free, and I was like, here boys, I'm playing with this. And I just couldn't believe it. And I was like a course at Ulster University for free. Like, I just thought that was incredible. And I thought there's no way they're going to let me in, but somebody did. So that was great. And it was a fantastic course. I've done, a degree and a couple of masters. This is the first one that I've ever done that I've actually wanted to turn up to the class. It was so practical. So anyone who is interested in the business side of things or has kind of junior employees and things, the practical side of it was brilliant, and I was able to. Everyone else in the course was maybe from more of a business background, but I got the chance to be really creative, because a lot of the assessments and things that we had to do, you had to do it in reference to your own work, and I couldn't always do comedy. So, for example, one of the things that I did, you had to assess a business and see where they could improve and all this. And so I did my dad's business, and he's a funeral director. So I was all to my dad, this is how you improve your stats in Strabane. This is how you get more people to bury and all this. So it was it was really practical, but you also, it was fun, and you got to be creative, and I've really grown in confidence since then, because people don't understand if you do comedy or whatever, it is a business, I do kind of courses, but communication courses for big companies that you do a lot of hosting, MC and all that. It's all business, it's the same thing. And now I feel a bit more confident in that I have a little bit of knowledge, whereas before I feel like I was very much winging it and hoping nobody asked me any questions. And now I feel like I'm more confident in myself. That was the biggest thing that I got out of it. But it was a brilliant course, a really, really good course, and I loved it.
I've just written a little note here saying, does a bit of hosting and emceeing, so we won't have her back.
This will be Wendy's last year.
Joanne, from your company's point of view, first of all, tell us a bit about your company, and then about why this kind of skill up program is a good idea from your point of view.
Thanks, Wendy. So CME Group were set up 12 years ago in Belfast. It's mainly technologists in our office, but we also have legal, accounting and finance, online marketing and clearing operations. There are 350 of us. When I joined, there were 10 of us. And it's an online trading platform. So your eBay, your Amazon, they're online trading platforms, but we trade derivatives, futures and options. So you can, if you'd bought oil on our platform 2 years ago, you'd be quids in, because the price of oil went up, it's going down. So for us, hiring staff, we hire because of their passion and desire. However, technology and business has moved on a lot in the time that we've been there. So whilst I've been there a long time, the market has really changed. We need to train our staff. And we're fortunate in Northern Ireland to get some help from the government with funding for training for the staff, and also those free courses. We have a lot of apprentices, which is an amazing opportunity for the young people to have their degree paid for. They come to us straight from school and they're in university 4 days a week. And we have apprentices in computing systems as well as business technology. It's a great way for them to get on the job training, but also gain their degree. Same level of degree as anyone else who is doing a full degree at university. We've also had people who have done the apprenticeship as mature students. So if they have changed role within the past 6 months or are new to the company, they can get on the apprenticeship as a mature student, and they can do capital markets or leadership or anything like that to hit the ground running and bring them into the business with some additional knowledge.
Joanne, thanks very much indeed. Sean, Joanne was talking about the kind of technology side of things and how that's her business. That's very much the kind of business that you're into at Sensata Technologies. Would you talk us a bit through your experience of the postgraduate certificate in artificial intelligence? You were ahead of the curve there doing that, weren't you? Now that it's all over the newspapers at the moment.
Yeah, I sort of do tend to say to people that I was doing the course before it became popular, possibly. No, I'm an electronics design engineer, so a lot of circuits and systems, but weirdly enough, there's a lot of computing and coding in that as well. So I had that type of interest initially. And during 2019, I actually spent an awful lot of time traveling around Europe for the company, doing an awful lot of data collection. And through work, I had to sort of process a lot of that data. That really sort of triggered the interest again in sort of big data systems and what have you. And then, as was said, the pandemic hit and the opportunity for the course in AI came up. And really, for me, it was a perfect fit. As has been said, the ability to do it from home, the fact that it was online, it was just perfect. And the course, it ended up being, I seen the modules that were on it and figured it was going to be interesting, but I have to say it surpassed what I was hoping it was going to be. So yeah, it was a fantastic course and fitted nicely with me.
Now you were doing your studying and working full time at the same time. I mean, that can be a bit of a challenge. How did you find that?
It was, I'd always kind of done wee bits of online courses at home through various websites like Udemy and what have you. But to sort of take a structured course again, it did present some challenges. My work were very good in allowing me the sort of time to take the course as well. But it was structured in such a way that it was aimed at people who were working. So, the lectures were maybe sort of more into the evening, the way the assessments were structured and all that. I got the feeling that it had very much the people, like somebody who was working in mind for completing the course.
Graeme, what have you been hearing? What sort of feedback have you been getting from people that have taken up these courses, and what are businesses saying to you about them?
Well, certainly, hopefully you guys have heard firsthand sort of the benefits that how it has changed individuals' lives. And that's kind of the theme that I've got from talking to individuals and businesses, that it really has transformed people's lives. I get the opportunity to go to various graduations and speak to individuals who have been on the courses. One of the ones that I went to recently was a program that we delivered was Press Refresh. It was for women returners, so women who maybe hadn't been in employment for quite some time, maybe didn't feel confident, and maybe didn't have the technical skills, and it was specifically aimed at the IT sector. And I have to say, I was blown away by just the energy in the room and the buzz and the enthusiasm, and how it had reignited individuals' passion and enthusiasm getting back into work, and how it had changed their lives. So to me, that was a really fantastic advertisement, so that we're doing the right things. This is transforming people's lives. So that's was a really positive one, but that's just one example of how it has changed people's lives. And obviously, stats and facts in government, we have to look at these things, which were important. And in terms of a program, it has probably performed better than any other program we've ever done in relation to the feedback that we've got through our various questionnaires. Just to give you a flavour of that, almost 70% of participants described the course as excellent. That's quite unusual, and it's great to hear that. And also, 61% of participants believed that it had improved their employment opportunities. So at the end of the day, the facts don't lie, and that is individuals who are being very honest. I always find in questionnaires people tell the truth, and because it is, something that they have to do as part of the course. So I think those are great feedbacks that we get. In terms of employers, any employers that I speak to, they say this is absolutely fantastic. I think they say that because there's no cost attached to it. But actually what we want to see is individuals moving on with their career and their lifelong learning. And great to hear Sean talking about, the fact that he's doing more learning, and that's absolutely brilliant, and actually what we want to see happening. If you look at adult learning in Northern Ireland, we're probably down at the bottom of the league table. Only 17% of adults are actually involved in any form of learning. And there's a big risk attached to that, because if you compare that to OECD countries, around 30% of adult population are involved in learning. And if you think about our economy and how it's changing, that's a big risk for us. So everybody, including myself, have to actually keep themselves up to date and relevant to the changes that we're seeing in our economy. So I'd encourage businesses and individuals to look at this as a fantastic opportunity to keep their skills up to date and hopefully go on to further studies and further education in the future.
Joanne, it was interesting that you said how things had changed in the 10 years that CME have been here. I mean, when I look back at when I was at work, lifelong learning was one of those things that you yawned a bit about. And, if somebody said to you, there's a course you need to do, the whole thing was to try and find a way around it. Do it as quickly as possible, get it out of the road and move on. But you can't wing it like that anymore, can you? You need to have the skills, and you need to be able to have demonstrable skills.
Absolutely. So our company have signed a $1 billion partnership with Google. We are moving all of our data and processing to the Google Cloud platform. It's a 10-year project. No one in Northern Ireland has those skills. You can't hire people with those, so we have to train our people on the ground, and those people that we are hiring in, we have to train them as well. There's no denying it. As technology moves on, you have to, businesses have to move with it. I do a lot of work in schools. I'm getting asked a lot now about what is your opinion on AI and ChatGPT in schools? And my answer to that is you have to embrace it, because in the future, we're going to be hiring people who can use those tools well. So why not let the kids and teachers learn about how to use those tools in an ethical way, so that going forward, exams are less based on having to recall mountains of information, and rather to find those answers correctly in the resources that are available.
When you think back, we were talking about this at home just before I came out, not today because it was a bit early, but yesterday, and all of the work that goes into GCSEs and A-levels and so on, and they're so far down your CV, aren't they? Whereas something like this, there's Emer saying it's the first time that I've ever wanted to turn up to class. There's an enthusiasm and it's fresh.
Yeah, I have a 13-year-old son who did his French homework, and I looked at it afterwards, and the teacher had said 19 out of 20, really good. However, you don't do it on Google Translate. I was very impressed. She was impressed enough to give him a relevant score, but also understood that wasn't his actual work. It's how young people today are going to progress in their career, is using the resources that are available to them.
Sean, you grasped the nettle and went for this artificial intelligence certificate. This is a cheeky question, but was there a bit of enlightened self-interest in that? Given that we all keep reading kind of panic stories about how robots are going to do your job, were you getting in there first?
No, there was, I think, because I would sort of read a lot of blogs and that type of thing, it was very obvious to me anyway that that's the way we're heading. Things like big data, AI, they're going to be a thing. As was said, they're going to be part of our lives. My view, I don't worry so much about AI coming and taking our jobs, because if you use AI to be more productive in your job, then you're going to succeed, you're going to do good work. It's the people who maybe sort of stand off from it a bit they may potentially be at a bit of a loss. But yeah, so I definitely, to my mind, this was the way the world was going. It happened a lot maybe quicker than I thought it was going to. But it's I was sort of maybe trying to get myself out there a little bit.
Good for you. Did the trick. Emer, what about you? I mean, how have you been able, or are you hoping to be able to use what you've learned in your career?
I definitely have. I mean, ever since I've been on the course, I kind of put the things into practice straight away. I mean, as I say, I would do a lot of booking shows and all that and turning up, blah, 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 whatever. But I also do tenders out to companies and things like that. So it has been really helpful. But as I say, for me, the biggest thing was confidence. So before, I would have thought, like, I have no business trying to do anything that's related to because I feel like sometimes women think we need to have all the skills in the world before we go out there and actually do something. So that's kind of how I felt. I would have felt like I had a bit of imposter syndrome, like I wouldn't be able to run a business, do a business without the actual backing. So confidence is probably the best thing that it's given me. And now, I enjoyed the course so much. And the different modules, like in mine, there was foundations and management. I mean, I'm managing nobody, but the skills that you got in that were so helpful, and strategic innovation and things like that. Like a lot of comedy and things is based on social media and all that. So everything was relevant to. I couldn't imagine a profession that it wouldn't be relevant to. But even from the course, I've been quite passionate, and I'm like, I want to be a business person now. That's what I want to be, a business person. And I'm now really, like, I have a real interest in that. And I probably did before, but not the confidence. And even 2 weeks ago, I think I was saying to Nick whenever he'd asked me to do this, 2 weeks ago, I launched a new business, like, out of nowhere for camper van rentals. How random is that? But I just thought, I had a van that I'm really into vehicles, blah, 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 and I had converted this van and really, really loved it. And then I thought, do you know what? I'm a businesswoman now, so I'm going to rent this. And now suddenly me and my brother have this camper van business. I mean, we have t-shirts and everything. Like, we're a proper business. And, all the things that you need to know, like becoming a limited company, getting sponsorship, getting whatever. I felt confident enough to go for all those things because of the course, and also feel confident enough to kind of boss my brother around a wee bit, because I'm like, I have a certificate in business. So it has been really helpful, I think, for me, and just like going after what I want and feeling like I've got a bit of confidence and a bit of gravitas behind that, whereas before I would have just felt like I don't really know what I'm doing. So it was a great course. It's really, really helped me,
Graeme, you wanted to come in there?
Yeah, I think that you've really captured, Emer, what I've been trying to say, was actually, if you think about all of the difficult economic problems that Northern Ireland has had around poor productivity and challenges around that. To me, it is very much the solution is around mindset. And as Emer says, is confidence. So, if we can bottle the change that has brought to Emer's life in terms of her mindset, her confidence, the way she thinks, having multiple businesses, that is the thing that will drive up our productivity and make a huge change in our society here. So that's exactly, as Emer described, our economic policy is bringing about the change in mindset and making sure that people are much more confident and have a can-do attitude. So, congratulations to you and what you have achieved. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Definitely.
Thank you, Stormont. Are going to have to bring me on board as the poster child for economic policy. My parents will be delighted.
We're going to do a tour.
There's a thought. Actually, that's not a bad idea.
You can rent my van for the tour for a small fee.
Sean.
No, I'd just like to echo the confidence point as well. Certainly when I first started working, the imposter syndrome was very real. And I was fully expecting somebody to come along, tap me on the shoulder and say, actually, you know what, we figured out you shouldn't be here. Do you mind heading on? But what courses like this do, they give you the confidence. Like, I never would have done something like this before. Wouldn't have even contemplated it. But they give you the confidence that you know what you're talking about. They're, certainly for me anyway, the modules were very up to date. They were based on what was happening now. It wasn't some weird esoteric theory that you were sort of getting on with. So the confidence that these courses give you it's one of those hidden things I think about it, but it's a massive plus for it.
That must be quite interesting, Joanne, to have a workforce that isn't full of people with imposter syndrome, because I think when we all have it, I mean, everybody nods whenever somebody talks about it. I mean, I definitely thought someone was going to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, actually, the real presenter is outside the door. Do you mind? But, that must be quite something for a workforce that has the confidence to feel that it has the right training, and that people who think, oh, actually, I should be here. I know what I'm doing.
First of all, complete imposter syndrome here. I take on any challenge, but I'm sitting here shaking and hoping that no one asks me a difficult question. Thanks, Wendy. And also, I'm feeling very not funny beside Emer. Very serious. So our workforce, there are different personalities. We're mainly technologies, so they're a niche market as it is. A lot of young people, as I mentioned, our early career program probably is about 15% of our workforce are from age 18 to 22. So that's a large percentage, and their confidence is amazing, but they are absorbing all of the learning opportunities that we are giving them, and they are the future of tomorrow. They are the future of our business. We rotate them across various different teams, so they are not niche. They learn a little bit about each area of the business, and especially in technology, they'll learn about infrastructure, they'll learn about software development and cybersecurity. For those of us that are a little bit older, and I'm going to use that word, put it out there, for us, we do need to maintain our skills to be able to interact with the large workforce that we have and understand what their needs are. So it's looking at what is our next phase in the project, what do we need to equip our staff with to be able to reach that, whether it's the project management side, the leadership side, changing how we work as well with the management team. So going from a particular model of management to a different model based on the projects. We need to be able to be agile and change the way that we are managing the teams regularly. And that means reinventing our management styles, going back to our leaders and giving them the skills that they need to manage in a new way regularly. And that all takes additional training.
John, thanks very much indeed. The applications are open for the courses here at Ulster. As Graeme said, they're funded through the Skill Up programme, and they focus on executive leadership, business analysis and consulting, business sustainability and innovation, strategic marketing, artificial intelligence and professional software development. I'd like to know, what are you thinking of doing with your dad's business now that you've got this camper van?
I also want to know, how does a funeral director have a daughter that's a comedian?
That's probably why I'm a comedian. I have been, so I'm waiting to push him out. It's retirement age almost. I've been trying to encourage him to go down the route of some very bizarre things. Whenever I was doing my research into the company, I was saying to him, well, what would you think about, they bury people in mushroom suits. So have you heard of this? Yeah, have you looked into it, Wendy?
Not yet.
You're on the list.
But I am the closest person here, I think, to needing it.
So I've been encouraging that and encouraging different methods of burials and things, which all sounds very morbid. But I mean, a funeral director is it's a business. It's a very good business plan. So he didn't really take too kindly to many of my suggestions. And I was, because we're doing a module on strategy and innovation, I was like, what about a social media presence? But I don't think tweeting about buy us for your funeral plan is very appropriate. But I kind of noticed whenever I was looking through all my dad's stuff, like, I don't know if it's because, I'm from Strabane, maybe my dad is a little bit behind the times. And I don't know if it's because the funeral business is a bit behind the times too, but everything was very analog, do you know what I mean? And everything was very kind of old-fashioned, and nothing, like my dad has worked there since he was, I don't know, 16, 17, and nothing has changed. So I thought it was interesting for him to have somebody coming in, and I mean, not that I had a clue what I was talking about, but, you know, it was the first module we did, and coming in and actually looking at the business from the point of view of, you know, where do you make your money, and you know, what about all the variables and blah blah blah, and just going back to my dad and making suggestions. Like, I think he found it interesting, and he's, you know, a lot of the questions I was asking, why do you do it this way, why do you do it, well, that's just how we've always done it. And I think even I was talking, we had to do a bit in the module about what's going to be the future for this business. And, you know, my dad is in his mid-60s, probably doesn't think about things from the kind of green point of view or whatever. So I was kind of saying to him, you know, well, all the research I've done in the funeral business, everything's going very green and everything. And he was like, shut up. But it was interesting from a point of view that I was able to say things to him that he'd never thought about, that I would have never thought to research or look up if it hadn't been for the course giving me that opportunity, you know. And it was fascinating. And sometimes, you know, people think funeral directing or whatever is an unusual career. I find it fascinating, and I would have gone into it had I stayed down home. But I think that showed me that you can really apply the course to literally anything. And I know when I submitted my assessment and the title was something like, you know, funeral homes should all be buried in mushrooms, I know the person marking that was thinking, get her off the course. What is wrong with this person? But I just thought you can apply this course to literally anything. Like, every business is a business, and there were a few things that my dad kind of changed as an outcome of the assessment that I did. And I gave him the thing, and I was like, here's your report on your business, and kind of gave recommendations and stuff. And like, it was fascinating. It was so interesting. So yeah, I think kind of the message from that is you can literally, whether it's comedy that you're doing or it's you're burying people legally, it's, you know, all those things, you can kind of apply this course to it, you know, no matter what it is. And obviously Sean's done the AI. There's loads of ones in software and tech as well. So any topic you can kind of apply it, which is great.
Briefly, are you going to do another course?
Are they free? They're still free.
Something could be arranged.
So, I actually think I'm addicted to doing courses and to learning, and I really enjoy them, and I do think that I really value learning. And I didn't come from an academic family or an academic background, and I don't know if that's why I appreciate it so much more. But I was so keen after I did my undergraduate to kind of keep going and keep pushing and kind of do different masters and stuff like that, because I think it's so valuable, and it's so kind of, like, to me, it's just constant learning, and learning as an adult are really important, and there's lots of skills that I feel like I need to gain. And I just think, like, that business course, I kind of had got to the point where I had exhausted all my, you know, postgraduate loans and stuff. So having the free skill up course was amazing, because I thought, well, here's another chance I can do to improve myself and to improve, you know, things that I might work on in the future. So definitely, if there was courses and stuff I was interested in, I would 100% do them again, and I recommend them to everybody, you know, because they're fantastic.
That must be exactly what you want to hear, Graeme.
Do your heart good listening to that, I have to say. You know, whenever you're working in a government department, you're sort of that many steps removed, and you always have this thought and idea of what you're trying to achieve. You're always trying to transform people's lives. So, yeah, it does my heart good to hear that, how it has impacted you and has ignited your love of learning. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is trying to get people back into learning again. And whenever you look at the participation, almost half the people that are participating in this programme haven't been involved in any form of learning for over 5 years. So that's what we're trying to achieve. It's trying to get people back into learning, because I think, as Joanne said, you know, distance is sort of the business that she's in. It's changing so rapidly and so quickly. So if you're don't have the skills, you don't have the insight, it's going to be very difficult to actually work in that environment at all levels. Even at a leadership level, you need to know what's happening and you need to be up to date. So absolutely fantastic, Wendy, to hear that story.
I think we have another question here. Yes, hi.
I'd like to ask Sean and Emer and Catherine, what has the course allowed you to see things differently that has enabled you to go back and transform either your own individual career journey or your business?
Sean, would you like to take that first?
Yeah, I think, well, I come from a technical background in my job anyway, so I kind of have that mindset. But what the course really allowed was, it was a new way of approaching problems. From an electronics standpoint, you have a PCB, you check there's power going, all that sort of stuff. But with this course, it just through working through the assignments, you started to develop different ways to figure out solutions to problems, and then they can be applied across the board. It's not just something that's very specific to, say, artificial intelligence or software in general. So that's, again, I think for me, one of those sort of unexpected benefits. It was just a new way of problem solving, a new way of looking at issues that you may have and figuring out the best way to get round them, or not round them, but to get it solved. And I've been able to bring a lot of that into my current work, and doing my best to try and get them to start looking at machine learning and artificial intelligence for working with their data. So again, I didn't think there would be those benefits when I started the course. I was thinking it would just be very purely technical, but there has been an awful lot of hidden benefits from it too.
Sean, thanks very much indeed for that. Emer, what about you? What have you been seeing with different eyes?
Probably how I approach things. So when I did work as a speech and language therapist for about 7 years, and it's a really important job, and it's a great job, but I found that people come in, I worked with people who had eating and drinking difficulties, swallowing problems, so they came in with a swallowing problem, and I tried to fix it. And then the next person came in with a swallowing problem, and I tried, it's very formulaic, and there's no room for creativity or ideas or anything like that, which suits a lot of people, but it didn't suit me. So I found that the modules in the course that I did really allowed the opportunity to be creative and to have ideas and go through different ideas and think, that's a good idea. Have these ideas and not automatically think, oh, that's a stupid idea, or I could never do that. That was what it gave me. And even if I talk about, obviously I do comedy and stuff like that, but if I even talk about, I'd mentioned the camper van thing to you all. Whenever I said to my family, I'm buying a camper van, because I'm very into vehicles and very into interior design, when I said to my family, they were like, you are nuts. Why would you want to do that? Whereas I was like, well, I have this idea and I did this course, and you're allowed to be innovative, you're allowed to have these ideas, and you're allowed to follow the ideas that you have. And who is it to say that they're stupid? You can do them. And I now feel like I also have kind of the confidence, as I've said so many times, to go after those things, even if other people are saying they're silly. And as I say, whenever we put it out 2 weeks ago, the whole thing's booked up to October, and my mum's like, I knew that was a great idea. That was a brilliant idea. But if I had have not had the confidence from the course, when everybody had said that's a silly idea, I would have said, oh no, you're right, and who do I think I am, and I can't do this. And whereas I think being creative and being innovative and having ideas and things that you're interested in, and having the confidence to say, everybody might not get this, but I'm going to go after it. That's probably the biggest thing. That and the confidence that I've learned from the course, and that's definitely, I think, me seeing things with new eyes.
Joanne, I think you wanted to come in earlier on there, and just listening actually to all of that, the kind of new eyes. I'm wondering, with your young people that you've got, and the apprentices that you talked about, who could do those amazing things that I actually didn't have any idea what they were, most of them. But anyway, that must make a difference to your company, and having people doing the kind of course that we're talking about today is a bit of a kind of injection of enthusiasm, perhaps, for everybody.
Absolutely. So thankfully, our company is quite a flat structure, and it's very much an open door policy. So we do listen to those young people coming in with ideas and different ways of doing things, because we're all very long in the tooth and set in our ways. It's more difficult for us to embrace change. For example, we have all moved from Microsoft Outlook to Google Workspace, which is traumatic for me. It's very different. I had my way of working with 30 open emails at a time. Now I can only open one at a time. But the younger people just embrace that, move on. It's change. They're the ones helping us. They are our Google guides in the office. They are the ones who, for them, they're so used to it. And much as TikTok and the 15 seconds of attention is dangerous, it's also they are learning things in 15 seconds. They can move on and learn something new. Their brain is wired in a different way just because of their importance on numeracy, literacy, and technology. And I think that's how it should be in schools going forward, is those 3 items should all be taught in parallel to equip our young people for the future.
That's a very interesting point, actually. In the school, I know it's a bit outside your bailiwick, Graeme, but you know, if you're doing all of this new stuff and you're using the agile word, does it apply further down the chain? You know, they are still doing GCSEs and A levels, and I don't know about you, nobody has ever asked me what I got in my O levels. I'll have to admit, you know, I mean, and you know, when did you ever use any of that stuff that you learned then, except for perhaps the maths and the English and a bit of French when you're stuck?
No, I agree. One of the big things that I hear from employers is about those employability skills. It's not necessarily what you learn in school, the knowledge-based piece. It's actually skills. So it's providing young people with the skills that they need for a very different world that's out there. So we are working very closely with the Department of Education to think through curriculum, pedagogy, you know, on how we treat our young people coming through our education system to make sure that they're prepared for a very different world. But as you've heard from the panel, I mean, that is all about mindset. It's about having confidence. It's about, you know, being prepared for the world of work. So I do agree that we do need to adapt and we do need to change our education system. A lot of the practices are still as they were whenever I was at school, which wasn't today or yesterday. So we do recognise that there is a need for change, and I have to say that the Department of Education is working very closely with us and working in partnership with us. One of the areas that we do want to focus on is around careers. No matter who you talk about education and skills, careers is the one thing that comes up time and time again. So certainly with the new Skills Council, that is an area that we want to focus on this year, is to make sure that we get the piece around careers right. It's not going to be a short journey, but we want to focus on that and making sure that young people, and the point we were making earlier on, particularly parents, have the right information. There's a lot of misunderstandings, let's just say, out there amongst parents about what are the careers of the future. They're not law, they're not accountancy, those careers. We're talking about AI. I'm an accountant by trade, but a lot of the things that I learned will be done by a machine in the future. So it's changing perceptions amongst parents is going to be
and
the
teachers.
things, and teachers as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Joanne.
We maybe need to send some of the teachers on the Skill Up courses for them to become more aware of the leadership, the software, so that they can teach at an equivalent level to those young people that they're teaching.
Joanne, thank you very much indeed. And thank you to Sean, to Emer and to Graeme as well. I just want to wrap up by reminding you that the applications are open for the Skill Up programme. The courses start from September 2023. They're delivered part-time to work around your lifestyle. And there are limited places available, which I think means get your application in ASAP if you possibly can. And if you want to find out more and apply as well, www.ulster.ac.uk/skillup. And there's lots of more information on the Department for the Economy website as well, and in a zillion other places here from what I can see. So there's no excuse for not having a look and seeing if either you or people in your company could get involved. Thank you all for being here this morning. Thanks to our excellent panel. I hope that you've enjoyed hearing from them as much as I have. Nice to have so many people in the room as well. And this has been a podcast for the Ulster University Business School, The Business of Possibility. If you're listening as a podcast, do make sure that you rate us and follow us. No, that's not the right word, is it? Do make sure that you subscribe and, of course, rate us. And please do tell all your friends and colleagues. Thanks for listening.